Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty.
Folks, welcome back to the Fit and the Fab channel and iHealth Radio with your host, Hurricane H. New day, new show, new topic. A treat today, literally a treat. I actually discovered my guest, on a journey where I was on the ship having fun. And part of the performers that I was truly impressed, and I've done quite a few of those trips, was this particular guest I have with me today. And it just, like, the stuff he does is just amazing and literally amazing. And we're going to talk about that now. And so he is an entertainer, a comedian. I mean, you'll laugh your butt off, listen to him. But what he does, it's beyond, the typical entertainer comedian. And he's a juggler, but he does it in a very, very difficult way. And especially on a moving ship. And we'll talk about that shortly. So with me, I have the one, the only, the legend, Rick Novell. He is just purely amazing, but it is up to him to tell us. So Rick, can you tell us a little bit about your story and how it all started? Because I mean, it's the stuff you do is amazing, but it started a long time ago, I'm assuming.
Yes, absolutely. First and foremost, thanks for having me, Hurricane H. It's nice just to chat about this stuff with someone who enjoyed it himself, and I feel like you're a fan, so I appreciate it. Thank you so much. It started when I was a child. I tell the little story at the end of my act about my grandmother giving me a unicycle for Christmas when I was 12. It was an act of love. Back in the day, we used to get these catalogs that were nearly as big as a telephone book from Sears and Ward's. And my grandma plopped this Sears catalog down and says, "What would you like for Christmas?" And I thumbed through this thing. And I really didn't have the nerve to ask for the whole bicycle that I really wanted. So I pointed to the half a bike, and that's what I got. So I get this unicycle, and I didn't want my grandma to feel like she got it for me for no apparent reason. So I became good on it. And from there, one thing led to another. And I always take it back to my grandmother. Like, if I'm like, thank you, it's always my grandmom's picture in my head when I'm saying it.
Wow. Well, that is a deep story. And first of all, you appreciate all these years, that little gesture, that little gift. And sometimes we could talk about that also. I mean, I'm a parent. I was a kid, a child. And sometimes people may or may not appreciate the gifts that they get throughout their life. And they don't even know what some of these things and how they'll impact them. And we've seen people succeed. You get a football, and the next day you're a player. You get a baseball kid, and now you're actually in the league. And you don't know what that start is going to give you. You get a first book, and now you're a writer, whatever. So things are amazing, and that's the trigger sometimes. Yours was a very unique gift.
It was. I trace it back to this, then a series of things. Then I became the kid who rode a unicycle around the neighborhood all the time. And people were interested, and somehow, I forget who wrote in about it, but they got me on the local news in Baltimore. This local news program was seen by people that then decided they wanted me to do something at their event. So the very first thing I did, I was 14 years old. They paid me $100 to ride my unicycle and juggle in 1976, the bicentennial year. So here I am, 14. I dress in red, white, and blue. I'm going to go out for 3 days and ride around and just do things I like doing and play and get $100. Now, at the time, I was mowing lawns for $4. Imagine how many lawns I would have had to mow to make the 100. So I'm as happy as a kid could be. And I went out there and did the 3 days. Then this led to another thing. I got hooked up at a place called the Theater Project in Baltimore City that was doing something called the Neighborhood Art Circus. The Neighborhood Art Circus was this circus that was to go into poor communities and give circus environment to people that might not have an opportunity to go to the circus. It was way before like Cirque du Soleil had all the big tents and all this. We had these big sails that were colorful. We had these tents. We would do our workshops, face painting, juggling workshops, gymnastics, the unicycle. And then we would get the kids interested. And at the end of the week, after they would show their strong points and say the juggling, the gymnastics, the face painting, the whatever, we would put together some routines and do our own little circus with them at the end of the week. I did that for almost 4 years. And then when that lost its funding, me and several of the other entertainers that were putting on shows put together our own act called the All-American Mini Circus. And we went around the world doing shows for troops overseas. We did 4 USO tours. We went down to Alexandria, did a little audition. Next thing you know, we were going all over the place for troops. And that was some of how I started.
Wow. Well, that is some impressive stuff. I mean, first of all, as a young kid, I'm just imagining like the first one you come out of the unicycle on the neighborhood and they look at you like, I mean, you made the joke about you point out to the half, you couldn't get the full bike, and people may say like, well, you couldn't get a full bike. I'm sure kids can be brutal.
Oh, yeah. Right. What happened to the other half of your bike?
I know.
Do a wheelie. You're already doing one, but do a wheelie.
But you know what? You proved everybody, wrong. And here you are years and years later doing it worldwide with quite a fame and quite, a splash here, I can say. And you know what? I would love to actually maybe, meet someone of those kids that, I don't know if you ever met someone from that time and say like, hey, remember what you just said when I was a kid?
It certainly was one of those things. It was easy to tease about or whatever. But when I was a kid, it seemed like everyone had their little things. There were the skateboards, the pogo sticks. People, all had their little customized bicycles. We would make choppers out of them. And, so I fit in my quirky little way.
Well, again, 70s, 80s were years where outdoor activities were great for kids. And, I mean, I like, now it's the outdoors is less, frequented with kids than it used to be. And it's just different. We don't, our children today don't spend much outdoors. They spend more time in front of the screen, unfortunately. But those were happy days. But you had something unique, and then you actually started making money. You said it, $4 to do loans, and you went to $100 for a day just to go and be in Captain America on a unicycle. That's great.
That's it. Yeah, no turning back.
Well, again, but you didn't think about that as a career at the time. That was just something you did on the side to generate some revenue, I'm assuming, right? Some income.
Yes. Very formative years for me were at the Theater Project, watching all the different artists that passed through the doors of a theater and then being in contact with them. My dad was an electrician. My grandmom worked at a place called Corvettes in a retail. We were working class people. I didn't have anyone to grasp onto as an entertainer that I would say, oh, I should do that. But when you were at the theater, all the people that came through the door made their living that way. Everyone from the supporting crew that works behind the scenes to at the Theater Project, these would be African dance troupes, magicians, mimes, bands. And the general consensus for me was they were always happy. They just seemed happy regardless of the amount of money they made. It was never about money. It was about the arts. People come to the theater to escape all that is real and to get into a zone where everything is a little glossy and unreal for a little while, where we forget about all the other things in life. And that's what I've learned through the years about theater, and why when you watch a show like mine, for 50 minutes or however long that show goes on, we don't think about the other residual things in life that might bring us down. It's all about being up, being positive, feeling good, and letting laughter be the medicine that it is.
Wow. Well, actually, thank you for sharing that, because that is powerful. And, entertainment is part of our life. And, sometimes you think about it, life would be very difficult if we were not able to kind of shut down for, to your point, an hour and just put everything out and just kind of zone in and have a good time and laugh. I mean, laughter is a good medicine, and you certainly do a lot of that. You have a lot of that medicine to dish out. So I can tell you, folks, when you're watching this or listening, you better check out his work. It is amazing. If you come across him on a ship or on land, I mean, you will be facing a nice little moment and you enjoy it. But so that, thank you for sharing that. You talked about entertainers, and it's all about the art, not the money. I get it, and ultimately, the art is beautiful, and there's so many things. And you mentioned circus, and historically, circus was where people went to entertain. That was like where you wanted to see something funny, different, you go there. And I don't think circus, I mean, it's evolved. You mentioned Cirque du Soleil now. I mean, the stuff that they do is a whole different world. But you did, the traditional in a way, but it's not so traditional. I mean, we're talked so far just about the unicycling piece, but we haven't talked about the juggling piece, and then we'll talk about the comedy. So you combine a lot of different things in one. But just to go back to your journey at, teenager, going through school, getting some extra income, and now you found the theater and you're doing that. Was that where you decided that's the route you're going to go, or you actually, were doing a different career at the time?
No, actually, so when I was 14 and Theater Project got me on board there, I was able to, in high school, make it a part of my educational program. I literally, the senior year, I could get out at 11 and go directly to work. And I had discovered before I finished high school, that is what I wanted to do. Now, my ideas at home, my father, my stepmother, it was more like, maybe you should join the military. Maybe you don't really realize that that's not an easy career, entertainment. And I just kept fighting through and trying to get through to them that all the people I meet in the theater are happy and prosperous entertainers. And if you just don't give up, if you go for it, you can get it. So I had my tough times. I mean, I definitely had to work through it. And like I said, just by not giving up, I was able to succeed. You just got to keep getting better, work on your product.
Well, that's a big point, and I'd like to take a minute just to talk about it, because people are listening, watching, are kids, or they are basically, they have parents. And this is an age, especially you mentioned high school, where parents have aspirations or maybe expectations from their kids. They want a doctor, they want this, they want that. Now, sometimes they don't certainly think entertainment will be the best place. Now, although there are potentially parents that will probably support that idea, especially in movie acting and so on and so forth. And we've seen child actors, and they do successful stories, and many of them go on to become real, superstars. But to your point, the resistance, the traditional way, especially in the 70s, 80s, everybody wants their kids to be the next thing, right? And you said working family, you want, the next, executive, you want somebody. And I'm sure those discussions probably did happen. But for people that are watching and listening, you mentioned something powerful, which is you knew what you wanted. And sometimes that's difficult. A lot of kids don't know what they want. And you went against the odds, and you even challenged a little bit of your parents, but they all eventually supported you, but you went through it, but you went full force. This was your thing. This was your aspiration. This is what motivated you. And you said something about being happy, and happiness is everybody's, goal. I don't care when we ask for money, everybody thinks like, would you like to make a lot of money? We all want the money just so we can have the happiness that comes with some of it. Although money doesn't buy happiness, but money can buy things that can make you happy, right?
Sure. So it eases a burden.
Exactly. So you can't afford things that you might. I mean, your stress level may probably be less. That again, I don't want to go into the money discussion, but that's a big topic itself, because people sometimes are confused about it. Money is a means to an end, not the end itself, and therefore how you use it can make your life a lot simpler and easier. And without it, you can still be happy. But it's certainly to cut some corners and get you some closer to the stuff. I mean, to be on a ship, you need some money, right?
Yeah.
You know, so to have this moment of happiness, you know, whatever, you know, time of vacation, you need money. But the fact is, the idea of work, right? We work, people work, they go to college, school, whatever, they get into this job, a career path, whatever. But sometimes many are not happy.
Yes.
And unfortunately, it is what it is. You know, you work just because you want to pay the bills, and you know you're stuck in that just circle of life, and you can't do much about it. Just keep doing, right. And unfortunately, a lot of people, if you ask, and surveys have been out there, articles and many studies, a lot of people are not happy doing what they do because it's not really what they wanted to do. They just do it because they have no other choice. And you know, when someone finds that passion, when someone finds that true, you know, target of their life, like their goal is something that's going to make them happy and can make money out of it, that's the ideal scenario. But you said something about never give up, and that's the other thing. Many people will give up soon, and or get deterred, and they just kind of leave their dream, you know, whatever, and then walk away from it, and then wind up very sad and stressed and very unhappy for years to come, and if not, you know, for a longer time. And so again, the message I wanted to bring, you know, based on this is that if you are in that age and you are trying to figure out your future, you and your parents, this is a great idea where you can sit and say, hey, this is what I want. And maybe they'll support it. And a lot of parents are supportive to their kids. I mean, that's what we are as parents. You want to support them. We are also idealistic sometimes, and we want certain things because we think we know better. But at the end of the day, if they had challenged you and you didn't do it, you probably wouldn't have been as happy, and you probably would have been, you know, holding them responsible for your unhappiness. But you are happy. You're actually so happy that you even, you know, remember your grandma doing this deed for you.
Well, I mean, while you're saying it, these flashes are happening in my head, and I'm thinking about the yin and yang of life, the balance. Yes, my father, my stepmother, maybe you should join the military. But I always had my grandmother. I say it in the show like this. I do a little impersonation. First, I talk about Andrew Lloyd Webber. And I say, I would have loved to have been there when Andrew Lloyd Webber came up with cats. And then I go into it like this. I'm like, I got an idea. I'm envisioning a show about cats. And I want to call it Cats. And then I tell the audience, I go, look, I know Andrew Lloyd Webber does not speak that way. I don't even know the person, but I had a very important person in my life when I was growing up. So when I do important people, I use that impersonation. I said, for me growing up, it was a little like this. Rick, if anybody can do it, you can do it. And that was my grandmother. And it's like people just die laughing because your grandmother sounds like an old man, you know, but she was a smoker, and she, you know, that's how I envision grandma. So I bring her to life through these other characters and put her in the show just like that.
Well, that's a powerful message, Rick. If anybody can do it, you can do it.
Absolutely.
We can say that to the audience today. If there's anyone you can do it, it's you. Depends whatever you want. Think about it this way: any one of us can do what they want, but you got to do it. you got to be in it to win it, as we say, right? But don't give up. Focus. Make it happen.
Yes, and it was just simple little messaging like that. Just little things that I'll remember. That support. If anyone can do it, you can do it. It's so simple. And she would sit there and watch me do my simple little things or whatever, and egg me on to just work however hard I need to work to make it happen. So you need those cheerleaders in your life. And yeah, that was my grandmother.
Well, thank you for that too, because you said something about your cheerleaders, and your circle of support system, you know, is important. Sometimes it's family members, sometimes it's friends, you know, colleagues, spouse, somebody that believes in you, and they really support you no matter what. And they believe in what you believe in. Well, even if they don't, they do believe that you are, you know, able to do it, and they give you that push. And sometimes without those folks, I mean, they provide you with positivity and the right, you know, mindset, and therefore you do things. Unfortunately, you know, sometimes we don't have that. And a lot of people may be lacking, you know, a group of people or individuals in their lives to do that. And sometimes that derives them to do different things that may or may be a good thing. But again, from this platform, I think another message that we can take is that, find your circles correctly, surround yourself with people that will support your vision and your mission and your aspirations, whatever your goals and dreams. And of course, if you have family members, that are that way, hang out with them, spend some time with them, because that's what's going to keep you motivated. The more you hear stuff, that you can do it, you will do it, you will always going to, and they give you the support system of the success that you need. And they make, remember, it's all, we had shows about hypnotherapy. It is hypnotherapy. You hear it enough, you believe, it becomes part of your subconscious. And that's a big deal. And again, sometimes we don't have that. And I personally, this platform and what I do is to try to motivate people. That's why I always try to highlight these elements on the shows. Whenever I get an opportunity to discuss it, especially when someone like you comes on with a true story of success. And, I try to feed in that and share it with the audiences, because I think it's important that if you're listening, doesn't matter where you are, what your background is, what your economic background is, whatever it is, your religion, doesn't matter. If you have a belief and you have a dream and you have something that that's going to make you happy and you can live happy through it, follow it, make it happen. And then if you know someone that does that and you love those people, make sure you support them and help them, get to it and assist them for whichever way. Sometimes the assistance here is just words of wisdom, just the support. You can do it, to your point.
It's that phrase when you need it. That's
it. Yeah. And again, on the flip side, do not listen to people who says, "Oh, you cannot do it. Who you think you are?" Nobody. Now, other people failed. I've heard some of those kind of, the opposite, words of your grandma, where they just want to say like, "Well, just because they didn't do it, they didn't think about it, the world is going to end."
Yes. And another thing I try to emphasize to people: first of all, you don't want to set goals that are unattainable. You have to take small little bites of these things before you can start to eat the whole plate of it. And what I mean by this is we can fulfill these dreams and goals without it just being our occupation. We can have hobbies that are stimulating, or volunteering, or ways to dabble, whether it be the arts or other creative ventures. I find it through artistic endeavors. I also build. I create. The idea of creating, the beginning, middle, and end, the satisfaction of that. And we can do that. And I believe almost everyone is an artist at heart, whether it be the way you plant a potted plant, a garden, the way you decorate your bed when you've made it, the window dressings around your window. People have the flair with the way they dress, the way their laces match their cap, the way these are little artistic flairs, little stimulants for the person. I'm expressing myself. I'm feeling good. These are things that we don't always have to cash the check at the end of the week as our occupation to still participate in life with.
Thank you for that. That's very powerful. And you're right. Your passion is your passion, and you can do it on the side. And to your point, test it out until you're at the point where you can venture in 100%. But it doesn't have to be 100% to start, but you got to start sometimes, right? And you have to enjoy it. Could be a weekend thing, could be an evening thing, could be after work, or if you can make a living out of it, that's the best and the most ideal scenario. But not everybody gets to do that. But in your case, you did that. But you mentioned something about the paycheck, right? So let's talk about that. Many people are always concerned about the paycheck, right? Am I going to make it? I need to pay a mortgage. Life, is expensive. Kids, school, this, that. I'm sure there was a time in your life where you had to have some of those concerns, like everybody else. And but how did you maneuver through that? Because you're doing it, you're enjoying it, and I'm sure it was not always peachy. You had to go through your own, struggles, but you never gave up, and you're still doing it.
Sure. I can explain this pretty well because I have my wife and my son. My son is 26. My wife, it's my second marriage. We've been married 27 years. So I was married once before. I like to learn from any mistakes that I may have made that caused it to be a past marriage and apply it to being a better person in my second marriage. We've had our ups and downs. My occupation has had its ups and downs. And I've had times in this competitive industry where I started to fall behind. I had to fight for the dates. And when this happens, you have to up your game. I'm sure any athlete, anyone that has to work in a competitive industry has to up their game. I'm sure a teacher has to go and learn what the new standards are. They go and they educate themselves. For me, I had to write more. I had to practice more. I had to become fitter, stronger, better. And oddly enough, it probably was about 5 years ago, my agency said, we're having a hard time getting you work. We don't know how much more we'll be able to get for you. It was a wake-up call to me that being complacent wasn't going to be good enough. I need to make myself relevant again. And I got myself relevant again. That was right before COVID. Then COVID happened. I was off for 20 months of the cruise industry. When I came back in the cruise industry, it was upside down. It had changed. I was a hands-on audience participation act. All the protocols wouldn't allow us to touch each other or be in close confines. So I had to rewrite my show. I couldn't use any volunteers. And that came to be an advantage for me. I tapped into my writing skills that I wasn't working that hard on. Then I'm now become a lover of writing. I'm doing it in all my spare time now, writing fun jokes. I can't wait until the next time I can go and use them. Or I'll refresh my memory with something I may have let go of years ago and have a fitting place for it now and bring it back. But anyway, so sometimes when something bad happens like COVID, you got to dig a little deeper and you work harder. So now I'm booked all the way till November. I've got lots of dates. There could be 2 of me, and I'd be working constantly by concentrating on all those things.
Well, thank you. And that's also sharing that is big because, you know, people will always think, okay, it's always peachy, it's running smooth and stuff. And you're right, it goes up and down. And keeping up is a key word. I mean, or key words, because at the end of the day, you're right. You know, sometimes you become obsolete if you're the same monotonous, you know, routine or act, and you want to be always, you know, state of the art. You want to be like, you know, top of the line. You want to be innovative, different over and over. You mentioned something about that signature earlier, and yes, you want to have those. But you're right, that doesn't happen if you stop, or if you think that whatever you have. Again, you're talking about something I can relate to it from the media company. I mean, when I started a couple of years ago, you know, I've been up in that game slowly but surely and learning and tweaking and doing this, and it's getting better and better. And I'm not even close to where I need to be, or at least my vision. But you're right. If I stop, and it's a competitive world. I mean, there's many talk shows out there. There's many podcasts. There's many radios, and you know, you want to put your name out there. It's hard, and it's just going to take time. But you have to believe in the journey and believe in the mission and whatever you're doing, and you don't stop. You got to learn everything every day. You learn new tricks, and that makes you good and better and better and better and better. And you're right. Things sometimes happen. We didn't plan for no pandemic, and you're right. You were doing something that was cool, smooth, and then all of a sudden, now what's next? You got to make adjustments and come back stronger than ever, because you're not the only one that's going to want to come back stronger, right? So you have to like anticipate your competition too.
Yes, you're right.
And you know, and you're right. I mean, you're talking about cruise industry. That is, I mean, as many ships as they have is still a limited industry. You know, there's only so many ships out there. Although they come up with 1 ship a year, it's still difficult. And there's so many entertainers that are always jockeying for those roles and those itineraries as well as those schedules. So that is a tough one. But you're doing it. You did it. You added something valuable to our audiences today, is that you diversify, you add things, you find something new to do. And this is going to lead us now to the next stage, right? We talked about your journey, your vision, your enthusiasm, your passion, and the unicycling piece. But we mentioned briefly about the comedy, and you talk about your writing and jokes, but there's something else that you do, which is the juggling. And so when did that start? Because juggling itself, it is. I mean, there are jugglers without unicycles, and they're not comedians, and they're still good acts. So you combine all these things. juggling, the way you do it, I've seen some serious jugglers do it exactly that you do, or you do even better. And that's all they did. But you do this with challenging the gravity, challenging the motion. And then we talk about motion, and we talk about that, at sea, because the sea is not really a flat screen. It's not a steady land. It's moving, and you go left and right. You don't know where that motion is going to take you. So it's a rough one. It's not easy. And let's talk about fitness, because obviously, today we're gonna, we're gonna focus a little bit more at the end of the show about the fitness aspect of what you do. But so the juggling part, you've learned basic juggling, I'm assuming, just as part of, was that actually intentional? Was that an idea that, okay, next thing I'm going to do the juggling, and then what level of juggling I'm going to do? How did that work?
It was as simple as my father was an observer of, wow, you're really good on that unicycle, but when I'm watching TV, I always see these guys juggle. How about you should try some juggling? And quite literally, I just went and bought 3 little pink balls, we used to call them, little pinkies. We used to play stickball with them. And I taught myself how to juggle. And I just simplified it for myself and learned the basics myself. Now, through the years, getting together with other jugglers, I've learned all the different techniques and so on and so forth, and have been inspired and trained and taught. But the basics, I just went there with a little dream, a little idea of my father to go, wow, you could do this on a unicycle. And next thing you knew, I was doing it together. Yes.
Well, again, here we go. Your dad also had an input in how your next stage will look like, right? And that was it. So you started the juggling piece. Who did actually tell you about comedy then? Somebody else, or was that yours?
Here's the number one thing, I think, that combines all of what I'll bring out on stage today is being in the environment of enlightenment by my peers, to watch other entertainers. So it became, I'm a great balancing act and a great juggler. I can do those things confidently and well. But I was always inspired by my stand-up comedian friends or my impressionist friends, people that would impersonate others, whether it be musicians, you name it. I just wanted to absorb their way of communicating their art to the audience and bringing the audience in with them and building the key component, and that is rapport. Without rapport, it's just another TV show or another movie or another thing you could switch off. Rapport, that's your relationship. And I used to love the idea. It wouldn't matter what I was watching someone perform. I might not even like country music, but if this cat was out there with his country music and developing a love affair with his audience, I wanted to zoom in on, how does he do that? Where is that magic? How did he or she get whatever it takes to develop that relationship? So then I'm trying to take these athletic skills of mine and communicate. And the way I was to communicate were through the jokes and the laughter and the spontaneity, ad libs and play. And it became the secret sauce that held it all together.
Well, Rick, first of all, I commend you for the fact that you actually really appreciate the other entertainers and the work they do, and you admire them and you learn from them, and you're open about it, which makes any successful person usually has no hard feelings about the others, and they wish the best for everyone, and you learn from everybody, right? And there's always a new trick you pick from here, there, and there's everybody that personally, I believe in that. I learn from everyone. If I meet you today, I'm going to learn something from you. That's the end of it. But you're doing that and you apply it in real life. And so you added all these things, the juggling, which is not easy, but over the years it became. Now, when I say juggling here, just for the audience's purposes, we're not talking about just the 3 pinkies. We're talking about swords. We're talking about a lot of crazy stuff.
Around and yes, a little bit of.
I do remember being on the front row or second row, I think, at the ship, and your swords were flying close enough. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah,
but it is not easy.
Your face, like I might have seen in yours. I'll always tell the audience, this guy just leaned into his wife and said, I wish I was wearing my brown pants. little poop joke for everybody.
Well, listen, I mean, it does get, sometimes like uncomfortable knowing that you're there. But, obviously I personally trusted that you knew what you're doing there. And I've actually been closer to similar, acts. And there are times I've seen people volunteer, to your point before. They used to come up on stage and the juggler will actually play with those swords on top of them. And it's you definitely need some brown pants. But, so we talked about juggling the comedy and you started putting your own angle on it. And now, obviously, it works. I mean, dude, when you start your act, it's all comedy at first and just a little bit, and then you combine it and you do this and that. But you added more things. I mean, besides the unicycle, and you use the stand-up ladder or the unique, that's a big deal. Let's talk about that for a minute, because I this is going to lead us to the fitness level that you need to have to do all these things. So where did you get the idea of doing that?
Well, it was in 1987. I was street performing at South Street Seaport in New York City. And a friend of ours used a freestanding ladder. He was an old circus act, so he was trained with all the harnesses and everything you need to be able to balance on the ladder. So when you fall, the harness will lower you down with the pulleys and so on. Right. And he would do it in his street performing show. And when he got up on that ladder, his crowd would be so much bigger than everyone else's, because we would go with the depth of our crowd. If you could get them 5 deep in a circle around you, that's that many more people you would be collecting tips from when you encourage them to give you money for your street theater. So falling in love with his bit, I'd be like, Michael, wow, can you teach me? He's like, well, I can show you how to do it and you can use my ladder, but you got to teach yourself. So little by little, in between shows, I learned his ladder. And then I built a ladder and started doing the training on my own. And then it became my own thing back in the late 80s. And then through the years, just became, confident at it. Now, you're right. A ship moves. It's crazy. If you're coming towards me and you go to push me, I can see you coming. I have an answer to that. But the movement that comes on the ship is unseen. Suddenly, you are pushed by this force. So you are keenly aware. I'm up on this ladder with the machetes, about to juggle, and you feel the sea pushing you. I joke about every show is a moving experience because it's moving. And I get through it, little jokes. I'm a cut above the rest with the knives and all, but all my jokes are going over your head because I'm up so high. I've got a joke to fit the situation. But anyway, the ladder was so important to me to be a great street performer. So now it looks great up on stage. You're high up there in the air, balanced on a freestanding ladder. It's like you would see in a Chinese acrobat show.
Oh, it is. I have to say, I admired that show and I loved it. And it is not easy. I mean, you make it look easy, but it's not. And to your point, the motion of the ship does not, add up to. I mean, unless you're in a good day at sea, it's always rough. And the sad part is that the theater is always in the front of the ship, so they get the first hit of everything.
Yes, you'll hear when they hear the boom.
I know. Well, I mean, I know that some ships, they do cancel sometimes the shows if it's going to get very rough, but I've been in some decent rough seas and shows did not cancel. People were still, going left and right. As a matter of fact, you and I were talking 10 days ago when I was on the Oasis. There was a performance and there was some juggling done, but the ship was actually bouncing. It was rough.
Oh.
It was a little rough, and but again, it's balance. And one thing that you guys do is balance, and you can fit in properly on that platform and be able to feel the motion with it and be able, to your point, you're aware. And most of us are not. I see people walking without juggling; they just bounce on walls, boom, and they hit the wall. It is tough. Now, you've performed at sea, off sea. And which one do you really prefer? I mean, as an experience?
Well, now, honestly, people come on a cruise so chilled out. They're there to have fun. They let go of all the driving that we have that drives us crazy, people cutting us off. They've left behind their work. They've left behind all the things that frustrate them, and they're just really chilled out. So I love performing on cruise ships because I feel like audiences are already relaxed and ready for you. They haven't, even in the city, you might have had to go through a little bit of rough to get to the theater. On the ship, the roughest thing is they might not have had something you wanted to eat that night, and you can get it tomorrow. But the hardest thing is, oh, you didn't have an extra lobster tail for me? Oh, I'm having a rough day, but people just don't really have a rough day on a ship. So they bring that essence of, wanting to be happy, wanting to feel good. And then I met you on Anthem. Anthem, like Oasis, has a beautiful theater. Mm-hmm. That would be a beautiful theater if it was found on Broadway. And it's on this floating vessel. You also have a team of very professional theater people supporting your show. This lighting guy or girl or whoever this is in the booth is there because they love the theater. Same for the sound person, same for the production manager, or anyone from the orchestra, which I used a drummer from the orchestra to support my show. They all come with that passion of the love for theater. So I like that. I'd say ships would be my preference.
Well, they are mine. But, out of all the vacation modes, that's my favorite, vacation mode. So I enjoy it. And again, for the same reasons that you mentioned, it's a different setting. People are more relaxed. Life is easier, peachy. You enjoy it. Entertainment is soup, everything. I mean, I have yet to see a show fail or production, that goes wrong or anything. If they have a technical difficulty, it's 1 in a million and it happens, and they have everything in place to do it. I mean, they have every single thing that you can think of on land, they have probably double in there. So, yeah. I kind of support that system. I love it. And I'm always, open about discussing. So any challenges, Rick, that you've encountered in life in your career, whether it's just facing the audience or understand how to work with the audience, or it could be just to your point, you mentioned something about finding, a frequent, role or job or bookings, for example. Anything else that made it difficult, or is something that you always worry about?
There are a few challenges. One, like a lot of my entertainer friends, their aspirations were way higher than mine. I just wanted to be able to make a living and provide for my family. So I was never really shooting for the stars. I just really kept my goals simple. And I was always able to do that. I've never even needed to get on America's Got Talent or whatever to fill my calendar. My calendar's always been full, but I have needed to stay relevant. Staying relevant, that's been a challenge. I was injured. Staying injury free, that's a challenge. So I tore my ACL in my late 30s. I'm 59 now. So in my late 30s, when I tore my ACL, it was nearly career ending. I mean, I've got screws in my right knee now. So when you see me doing all that stuff, I'm doing it with that resistance, with something that's not 100%. And to come back in your late 30s, it wasn't that easy. Gained a little bit of weight, had to shake that off. The fear, the way that happened to not happen again, that was challenging. And then when you go through the ebbs and the flows, when it feels like, wow, can I still be away from my wife for 27 to 30 weeks every year, missing my son, missing so many special events through the years, weddings, people's birthdays, whether it be Christmas, whatever you celebrate, I was missing it with people. But I've powered through those things. You accept those things. And normally someone like my wife, she supports that. She understands. So it's okay.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because I was going to ask you the same question. I mean, you are away quite a bit, because especially on itineraries, you do multiple, nights, and sometimes you switch from ship to ship at ports. So it's an ongoing thing. And I know you mentioned 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out, or something of that nature. So that's a tough one. Even half of the year, you actually on the run. And you know, and you're right, it does happen with occasions. When I met you, it was Valentine's, so you were not actually with the wife at that time, unless she was on the ship, you know. And I know sometimes they do come out, you know, spouses do come out with the entertainers, but not all the time. So it is a tough, you know, mission, and that is a big challenge. And but you were talking, now we lean into our fitness piece. You mentioned something right now very, very unique. You tore an ACL. That's no picnic for anyone. I don't care who you are, how strong you are. That stuff is gonna hurt, and it's never gonna go away, because it is what it is. It's supposed to live with you until you die. But if it damages and it gets fixed, it is not gonna be as the original, you know, part, right? So that's different. And the act that you do relies on your legs, you know, 200%. I mean, 300, 1,000,000%. I don't know what percentage, but everything is actually on your legs. Everything you do is balancing, you know, and you need all those muscles, and you need to be able to work. And you mentioned something about the fear. We all have experienced it. If you're listening to the show, you probably fell or had some sort of injury throughout your life. Hopefully not as a tough one, but it doesn't matter, small or small. If you just trip, you always worry about the tripping. Like, you know, you're watching about, you know, where you put your foot before you go. As simple as that, it becomes very difficult. So here you are, you know, there's always a trauma that comes with injury, right? And so you have to get past that. And then only that, now you're thinking your career is almost at an end because you can't go. You mentioned something about gaining weight. That's a tough one. I mean, gaining weight is the quickest thing. You can lose weight as much as you want, and in no time you can gain weight and double it. It's just how it is. It's especially when there's no motion and you're sitting and you're eating. That's what we do. When we sit, we watch something and we just, you know, eat, and next thing you know, you just inflate. And over time, that's exactly. I mean, I experienced it personally. There was a year where I was just like, you know, didn't do anything, and just was literally on the couch. And the next thing you know, I gained 45 pounds. So that I'm coming out of 45 pounds took a couple of years, and get on those 45 was less than 6 months. So it is amazing how the body works. But for someone where the career is your fitness, your career relies on your steadiness and having a strong core and everything, that was a big deal. Now, what kind of training do you go through, Rick? I mean, first of all, for the people that have not seen Rick he said he's 57. Here's Rick. The guy is.
I'll be 60 in December. Yeah. 60 in December, and then in January that enters my 30th year of cruise ships. So 2023, I'll do as a 60-year-old man who's been half of his life at sea. So I'm really going to celebrate. That'll be the year to see my act. That's why I'm working so hard to make it the pinnacle, because I really want to bring that year on strong when anyone else would expect it to be weaker. I want to be strong. So I work double hard. What do? I have 3 Frisbees I bring with me everywhere. I could play Frisbee alone on the beach with 3 of them flying around. I could take one and hit it into the breeze and hit it and keep it in the air for minutes without it ever touching the ground. So it's like a boxing exercise. All you have is the wind, and this Frisbee's floating like this. And I'm like, I'm just whack, whack, whack. And then the wind, it'll be like hovering right here, say right above head level. All of a sudden the wind drops. Now it's at knee level, and you're like compensating. It might look like it's coming across at chest level, and the wind drops, it's at ankle level. You are constantly whacking, keeping the Frisbee up. All that movement, all that twisting of my core, keeping my arms up and my shoulders. That's why my shoulders are defined and my core is defined. And then I also do it combined on the unicycle. So I have a large wheel unicycle, 29 inches tall, and I'll take that all through the city and the country here where I live and ride it. You got to push really hard. You need a solid core there. It's all that twisting and turning and centering of yourself. And when I do these things, I do them to just wear myself out, make myself tired. And then I'll hit the gym just to tone. I'll do a little bit of chest. I'll do some curls for biceps. I'll, do some triceps, things just to keep everything firm. I'm not trying to be bulky, because bulk I would have to work around with everything I'm doing. I try to just stay thin, lean, like a boxer. And then because I'm from beginning to end doing the unicycle, the ladder, the little unicycle, the big one, and never stop moving and never stop speaking, it's very important for me to breathe and speak at the same time. So I don't want to be too labored. So my stamina is very important.
I have to say, for all the trainings out there, the ones you started with, the frisbees, is the least that someone would ever think that that's part of an exercise regime. But it is when you stated the first time, like, huh. But I did see you actually. I saw a couple of clips you doing that. But the fact is, when you don't think about it until you actually described it the way you did. I mean, to your point, to keep that up and down and moving and stuff, that's pretty intense. And you will not even appreciate it until you actually start to do it. And good luck if you're not.
Well, that everywhere we go, there's going to be a beach. Obviously, we go to beaches, or if we go, to historical sites, there's always a fort or a peninsula, a park, an open space somewhere you can go. So I bring one everywhere. And often people want to play with me. I've taught people all over the world all my different throws and techniques, but I use it as my key component for my running and stamina. I get bored on a treadmill. I have a theory. Running on a treadmill will get you nowhere. I mean, now,
literally.
Quite literally. Now I understand we should do whatever it takes to keep ourselves in shape. But I myself get bored with these vehicles, so I have to go past that. Also, I want to combine my reflexes, speed, and timing and coordination with the laboring of myself, which isn't easy to emulate on a treadmill or a Stairmaster or another place you would do your stamina. So I'm getting them at the same time. I can create that with this frisbee. I'll go on the basketball court on the ships and do it, even after hours, just so I'm running and doing. And I have all these little solo things that I can do. And even if it's just getting my unicycle out and practicing a couple of the tricks, the intensity of these things, it's very good for you. So I'm not your traditional gym rat. You'll see me in there. Sometimes people be thinking, what's he doing with his frisbee? I'll take it in the gym and just do little things, And then when they realize I'm a professional juggler, then they understand why I'm working on coordination techniques. And that's all.
Well, thank you. But that is powerful because, first of all, it's something you mentioned that was funny. You said you're 30 years at sea and you reached you want to get to the pinnacle. I mean, you're talking Royal Caribbean language there. Pinnacle as in the membership.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Oh, funnier. I joke with my comedy friends about this. They find this humorous. The Pinnacle people wear a badge. Have you seen them?
Yes.
Like a name tag? And I joke with my friends. I go, I'm going to get one. And it doesn't say Pinnacle. It says pineapple. But the word looks similar. And they wouldn't look close enough to realize I'm a Pineapple member, not a Pinnacle member.
I would love to see that because I think you're right. No one's going to actually come close enough to read it because it's tiny.
Right.
Well, you won't have the butler.
Pineapple. And the Pinnacles, they'll go, well, Pinnacle, it's the very top. And I'm like, what a great place to put my pineapple, right on the top.
That's funny. Well, 30 years, it's quite an impression. I mean, impressive. I mean, I don't think some captains may not have been 30 years at sea, but it's amazing because, you do this on and off the ships. Now, do you do any training on stage just to prep?
Oh, yeah. For instance, like on the day you would have seen me performing, I would have already practiced a minimum of 45 minutes to an hour of just prep, getting ready. I normally go down and do 100 push-ups before I go out on stage, things like that. I'm not hardcore trained. I don't want to wear myself out because the show wears you out. But I want to enter each place that I'll need to enter in the show for a little while to make sure I'm ready for it. And then the getting down and doing some push-ups just to warm me up a little bit and make me geared up and ready.
Well, that's important, because I was going to ask you. I mean, the stuff that you do, you can't just do it cold turkey, because you'll do some damage, and the next perform, because you perform at least twice on an itinerary, and the last thing you want is to damage a muscle or something or hurt it, because you're not going to be able to do the stuff, and that's risky. To your point, that's the biggest challenge that I can think of, because you have to maintain pristine at 200% at all times, because you cannot have even one small injury, otherwise you stop the show, and then that pisses everybody, and then that causes a ripple effect with the organization. So that's a tough one. But yeah, so push-ups are good, a good formal exercise that can get you pumped up quickly, heart rate, everything. And the other thing, now let's talk about that. I mean, you're on a ship. The joke about ships is there's plenty of food, and you're not restricted to the crew stuff. You actually are, with the guest side. So you have all that buffet business going and everything. So how do you maintain, not getting crazy with all the sweets and all the everything that they have there? I mean, you can gain 10 pounds, as they say, the average person gets 10 pounds on the ship. You're there for 2 weeks. I mean, that's 20 pounds. I mean, you're right. If you add weight to yourself, it's going to be very difficult to do your juggling act.
No doubt about it. That's the other thing. I know I have dabbled with joking about that a little bit in my show. I don't know why I don't talk about it more, but you're right. If I'm doing 27 to 30 weeks a year, half of my life on cruise ships, I should be pretty much the size of the Goodyear blimp by now. But I really hone in on the idea of life in moderation. People will ask me, what kind of diet? And I tell them I really have no specific diet other than moderation. I won't eat that exceeds my movement and activity. And if the one started to weigh against the other, it would be easy for me to put down the fork, because I have to have those ninja type reflexes as the entertainer I am. So I've always known when to put down the fork, and I'll joke with people a little, only because you remember I've got those abs, those 6-pack, like freaky abs. They were freaky when I was a kid, and they're really freaky now that I'll be 60. It's like, what the heck is up with the abs? But I joke with people about, if you eat pizza after midnight and you go to bed, your digestive muscles will be working as you sleep, and you will continue to get your exercise. Now, that's just me being silly me. I don't believe a minute of it. I just joke about it. But I can quite literally work so hard in the day that it doesn't matter if I eat at midnight, or if I eat cheesecake, or if I eat whatever. But I'm not a big red meat guy. A lot of like seafood and a mix. I'll try to put, as silly as I am, if I ate some cheesecake, I'd eat a little fruit salad and figure they can battle it out in my stomach. And, I just don't really pay close enough attention to say I follow any one dietary regimen.
So thank you. I mean, you've covered a lot of things. We talked about the stamina, about the exercise and what you do, and different things, for your just your balance, as well as your dietary approach. And you're right. I mean, these are things. And again, to your point, people sometimes they don't realize. I mean, you can be on a ship with all the food. That doesn't mean you have to eat all of it, or you have to have 3 things of everything, every time. There's plenty of choices. You can take some today, some tomorrow. To your point, you can just get small quantities. And a lot of things people don't realize that on ships, you do a lot of walking, believe it or not. Those ships are huge by going from one side to the other. They have the food in the back and the shows in the front. Just going that, you're doing about half a mile back and forth. Because that's about the lap. I mean, I think 2 laps is about my
4 on the you just got off of.
Yeah.
I just got off the Allure sister ship. 2.4 times around is a mile.
There you go. So for every 3-4 flights back and forth, from front to the back, you pretty much did a mile. So you do quite a few of those, especially your cabin is one side, the food is on the other. Your cabin is one side, the entertainment is the other. Unless you're in the middle, know, which more expensive cabins are in the middle. It's just as an FYI.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I tried to figure a joke into my show at some point. Never made it to the show, but it made it to my paper. And it's only because I did it a couple times. I've normally stay over the bow of the ship. For some reason, that's where the entertainers stay. But I've gone up the stairs and made the turn and walked all the way aft to the back of the ship and just went, oh no, now I've got to go all the way back there. And I'm envisioning some rich people just keep a cabin at each end of the ship. And whichever way they turn, they stay there until they turn the other way next time. If they go that way, I'll stay at my cabin on the bow of the ship. They stay there for a couple days. Honey, we made a wrong turn. We'll stay at the back of the ship until we go forward again. But yeah, you can imagine people that wealthy. I came up with a joke on the Panama Canal cruise I was on. There were a lot of wealthy people. This was several cruises ago. I said there were people there so wealthy, they hire professional clapper/laughers. So they don't have to do any of the dirty work themselves. They just put a finger up and clap for them. And I'll tease my audience. I'll go, I could tell by the reaction so far, none of them are working tonight. You know? But it's fun. And it's just an idea. You get it, and then you get it in your show somehow.
Well, listen, I mean, you do throw in some nice punches out there, and you know, people really floor themselves, you know, and that's really the purpose. I mean, you have fun, and you do have fun. So that's funny you said that, because I want to ask you about your famous little
the Uniwave.
So let's talk about that. That's like your signature at sea. Where did that come from?
It's beautiful. The Uniwave. It's so fun. First of all, it was just an ad lib one day. I just ad-libbed it. I'm on the unicycle. You know, I tell all those jokes while I'm doing laps around the stage. Unicycling in Bulgaria, unicycling if you're the captain, unicycling in England, unicycling in Baltimore, New York, Texas. I do all these different ones. And one day, I just, for whatever reason, I said, when I have a long show, like I do now, I look at my watch. I do extra laps between jokes. And then I do my silly move and it makes people laugh. And then I added a little. I said, it feels like it needs music. And then they add music and I did it and people laugh again. And I say, oh, don't worry. If you're not laughing now, you'll laugh tonight when you're in your cabin going and doing my Uniwave move. And then they laugh more. Then I go, don't egg me on. I look at my watch, 35 more minutes, as if they're going to be watching me do that for 35 minutes, you know, and they laugh and laugh. So I named it the Uniwave. My wife helped me come up with the name because it looks a bit like a wave. It starts at the top and pushes all the way through behind you. But it has now, since I came back on the Oasis, was my first ship back after 20 months off. There was this large group there from Mexico City. These people were so sweet. They loved my show and they wanted to get together with me, the whole family, like 12 of them, all doing the Uniwave. And it looked so cool. And they inspired me to keep doing it. I'll start taking pictures of people when they do the Uniwave for me. Now I have almost 100. You, by the way, and Sam, you're in my little video slideshow that I do now. I haven't fully implemented it in the show, but I have it come up on the screen while they're exiting. It's to Lenny Kravitz, Fly Away, because people look like they're flying. You two were doing it. You're in there. So many people with the whole body zooming into their face with the lips puffed up the way I do them and all that. And it makes people laugh and it's just fun. So I've had so many great experiences. It would have been when I left you actually on the Anthem. They agreed to get a rental car for me. So what happens is you go from Bayonne to Newark Airport, you check out the rental car, and then I'm heading up Interstate 78. I'm at around Clinton, New Jersey at this point. You know, that's probably about an hour from Newark. Mm-hmm. I'm in the right lane, and in my left lane is this BMW just pacing with me. I'm thinking, wow, that's odd. Are you going to pass? So I look over. The lady in the passenger seat is looking at me with a smile from ear to ear, which if anybody's smiling at me looking like that, I'm thinking, wow, you got my attention. And she goes, bam, and does the Uniwave. I couldn't believe it. Now they did it. And she starts laughing and you could see him laughing, whoever was driving, because they took off. I'm laughing. Here we are driving at 80 miles an hour, laughing our little hearts out because we did the uni wave up on 78. It caught my heart so big and boldly that I decided to make it an even bigger part of the show. So it's growing even more. It will have grown more the next time you see me.
Well, I look forward to it. And I know, well, here's the thing, folks, if you're watching and listening, you know, check his, you'll have the link to his work and you'll see the actual wave and the pictures. And when you see him in the street, just do it. Yeah, that's going to be the viral thing on TikTok these days. We're going to have to do that. Actually, do it on TikTok. You never know. That thing's going to fly.
I get it. I know. I told you I'm prehistoric when it comes to all the social media. I need TikTok now. I just got Instagram. I'm like Zooming. I don't Zoom in our work. We don't really Zoom much, you know. We're live or we're not. We're not like having business meetings or something, you know. So funny, the word Zoom, I Zoom a lot. But
you Zoom a lot. You just don't Zoom.
I'm Zooming. But I remember when I met you, I was writing my blog joke. Do you remember? I said,
yes, you were.
I'm writing a joke about blog. I know you were a podcast. I said, but so many of my friends and people are like, hey, man, check out my blog. And I'm going, I don't know if I want to see your blog. I'm a little uncomfortable with words. I never want to hear a doctor tell me I have. And I give them an example. I go, excuse me, Mr. Novell, we're sorry to inform you, but you're suffering from the blog. The blog? What's the blog? It's bacteria looming over groin. Bacteria looming over groin. That sounds terrible. Is there anything we can do about it? Yes, there is. We're going to leave MySpace, move you to the eBay where we'll take a Snapchat. Then we'll take an Instagram of TikTok and reattach your YouTube, place you in the blogosphere and wait for all the Google to come out of your Yahoo. So I just, you know.
You combined every single social media there.
Yeah, exactly. You know, now I just need to catch up with my own social media joke. That's all.
Well, I can tell you, if anyone, well, I don't know if anyone in the world doesn't know any of those things, but the way it sounded, it did sound like a prognosis. Well, actually a diagnosis rather than prognosis.
Yeah.
And well, yeah, I mean, you made it sound so good. It's like, it sounds like a medical, you know, thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just tried to figure it away enough, you know, that a doctor might explain it to me like that. And that's how we go. And then I acted out a little bit more on stage. I'm like Google coming out of my Yahoo. And then I tell people, you haven't lived until Google comes out of your Yahoo.
People are probably going to look at you like, huh? Well, no, I mean, listen, well, you know, it's funny because on the ship, you have different crowds. You know, yes. Some crowds are more techie than others. Depends on what ship you're in. You might have a difficulty talking about the social media the same way you would do it in others. And that's so. How do you do that? I mean, obviously the audiences vary, and you need to really kind of compensate, you know, for all age groups and be able to do that. I mean, there are sometimes kids because these shows are family friendly, and so you have to really adjust to all those. I mean, that's a difficult task because really you can't please everyone, and at the same time you want to make sure everybody's happy. How do you do that? That's tough.
Yeah. Well, you know, first of all, the jokes and the character that you have, it needs to be entertaining to you, you know, playing with myself. And it's not like they're technically difficult jokes. I do one about ancestry DNA. I tell them that my wife wanted to do this and I was reluctant, but I did it anyway. And come to find out, I'm 50% Italian, 20% German, 15% British, and 15% Labrador Retriever. And, you know, of course, I have a guy come out from backstage and say, here, boy. And he throws me something to go fetch. And I fetch it like a dog. I mean, it doesn't get much more entertaining than that. But these are things that entertain kids, and adults get it too. I talk about ADHD in the show. I go, it won't be hard to convince you there's ADHD in my family. And people look at me like, yeah. I go, well, I'm dealing with it. Medication, meditation, exercise. And recently my doctor said, Rick, I don't really think you're ADHD anymore, especially the HD. We believe you've gone past that. Now you have something uniquely yours that we've never seen before. And I'm like, well, what is this? Said you're ADAD. ADAD. Well, what is that? Attention deficit and diarrhea. I'm like, oh, great. What a terrible thing not to be able to pay attention to. And then I'll say to the people in the back, you should see how uncomfortable everyone is in the front row right now because I'm ADAD.
I can just imagine that. I don't think that was on my when I was there, right? I don't remember that.
I'm writing them all the time. What's funny is that's a pretty new joke. ADAD is pretty new. A guy said to me after the show the other day, he comes up to me in the hall. He goes, oh, great. He goes, I love that. He goes, ADAD. He goes, I'm going to call myself ADAD now, too. He says, I'm lactose intolerant. I didn't even need to ask. Lactose intolerant obviously leads to diarrhea. Well, I'm glad I helped you find purpose in life now. You, too, are ADAD.
I think it's gonna catch on. People are gonna start using it now. Well, listen, that's how viral things go, right? You throw in a word, then a couple of people hear, they like it, they spread it, and before you know it, it's all over. Yes. It's amazing. Wow. Well, Rick, I mean, this been, we've passed the hour, and I've had a great time, and we've covered a lot of grounds from really motivation, goal settings, your journey, your challenges, the work you do. The fitness, the diet, and the jokes, the comedy, all of it. Just before we end the show, are there any words of wisdom that you want to share with the audiences today?
I guess more than anything is stick to those dreams. Be also that positive force you can be in people's lives. Be my grandmother as much as you would want to be me or whatever, in the sense of, fulfilling your goals. Support others that want to do that and give them that lift, give them that support that they might need. Be that person and be open to being inspired. I mean, I myself am inspired by so many people in life, but not just the entertainers. I'm inspired by the Filipino girl who's still smiling while she's wiping down this elevator, while she has 2 kids back in the Philippines, and she's just able to have a job that can help pay for her father's surgery or her kids' education or whatever, while she keeps smiling and keeps a positive attitude. So just be inspired, but you can be inspired by everyone who gives you something positive to be inspired by. And that's what I feel is the number one thing I can leave people with. And
thank you.
Be as positive as you can.
Thank you. And I do want, just since you mentioned that, I guess from this platform, I appreciate the way you said it and why you said it, because a lot of people sometimes would not realize that these folks are 9 months, 7 months away from their families. And they work, literally with no vacation time. They have a few hours off, and they have to maintain that smile and just, day in, day out, people come in, people come out of the ship, on and off, and they always have that beautiful, happy face and, with the right attitude. That is not easy. I mean, I have to say, I don't know if I could do that job, personally. I mean, it's a tough job, and these people really make it look good. So, from this platform, from you and I, we thank all those folks out there on those cruise ships that are doing their great job to keeping people entertained and happy and really live their vacation, their dream vacation with very little, issues. I mean, really, you go through the ship, chances are you're going to come out of there very happy. Very few things, happen here and there, but again, life goes on. But those people really give it 200% and more. I mean, it's amazing how well they do. So thank you for even bringing that up, because that's something that you don't hear all the time. And I know on ships they always give those thanks to them and things, but in the gratitude. But I think from this platform, anyone out there, if you're working on a cruise ship, thumbs up to you. We love you. That's it. So yeah, Rick,
teachers too. Because it was 2 of my high school teachers took me to a side and said, Rick, you got to get a job on a cruise ship because your grades have always been sea level. You got where to stay.
I love our teachers, but that was a good one. So I think it's a good way to leave this show here with some levity and some fun and a good joke, folks. Teachers, He loves you. We love you. but it's fun. I mean, that's the thing about comedy is you always laugh, and again, laughter is a good medicine. So, Rick, thank you for making people laugh and alive at the same time. I mean, really, you bring that life to people. You make them enjoy themselves, while they're with you, and it stays for a long time. Those things are happy moments and memories. And you can't buy those things anywhere. I mean, memories are something that's unique, and we all need them, and they keep us going. So thank you for the work you do out there. And I look forward to seeing you live again on a different ship, and maybe in the same ship. I don't know, but 2023 is coming up, and let's see.
Thanks so much, Hurricane. So nice to meet you. I've liked you from the beginning, and your spirit, you're uplifting, and this is good company. I appreciate you inviting me in.
Well, thank you. And again, this is your platform. Hey, feel free. Anytime you want to come back, we can have jokes on. We'll do that too. So maybe we'll do one on the ship. Hey, you never know.
Good idea.
All right. Well, folks, thank you for being with us. Thank you, Rick. Thank you for watching, listening, and hope this episode was enlightening and informative for you. So we'll look forward to the next one. Until then, Hurricane H here. We'll talk soon. Bye for now. Ciao, ciao.